So it's a new year and a new Bricklink Designer Program set to review. So today, guys, we are taking a look at Series 4. That's what we're on already, which is kind of crazy. Specifically at the Siege Encampment set, one of 5 of Series 4 that will be going up for pre-order in just a few days on February 4th of 2025. Pre-orders start at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll leave a link down in the description. With that said, this is my second Sleepless Night set, so that's the designer Sleepless Night. He also designed the Mountain Fortress, which you may remember from last year. So happened to be one of the most popular Bricklink Designer Program sets thus far. Really kickstarted this whole program off with Series 1 exactly a year ago now. It's crazy that I've gone through now 4 series of Bricklink Designer Program sets, 1 per wave, to review for you guys, and it's just going. Lego/Bricklink has already announced all the way up to Series 7 now, which is just bonkers. So this is very much a thing that seems like it's going to stay. Now, specifically the Siege Encampment set here, I gotta say this is definitely going to be one of the most popular sets from Series 4. Maybe not the most popular one. I think the Wild West Train might be one of the best out of the wave. Also, Seaside Market looks really good too. That honestly could be a good companion set to this. But I know a lot of you want to know more about the Siege Encampment set. I think this is going to be an interesting review. Now, the final thing I just want to make a hard point about this is I didn't know this, and for some reason it didn't click in my head, and maybe to some of you haven't realized this. This is a direct companion set for Lion Knight's Castle. So if you have that $400 Lego set, it's unanimously one of the best Lego sets that's been on shelves the last couple of years. It is a really good Lego set. This is meant to pair perfectly with it. And spoiler alert, it does. Honestly, when I first saw this set, I was just like, I don't know about that. I really don't want to build all these modular little things. Like, I was like, this kind of turned me off. But it's actually pretty good. Does that make it worth the $230 that Lego/Bricklink is asking for? We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But you also are going to get 2,598 pieces. So the price per piece ratio is pretty good. 18 minifigures. That's pretty good. Can't complain about that. And I mean, you can see it's filling up the whole table here. There's a lot of stuff to go through, plenty of details to show you guys. With that said, let's get into the in-depth. I do want to thank Bricklink/Lego for sending this early prototype set over, and let's go into the in-depth. So I gotta say, the Siege Encampment is much bigger than I was expecting. There's a lot more here, more than I expected to fill up on a table. As you can see, it's a lot of different stuff happening here. We've never really seen like a giant medieval battle pack or anything of this scale with so many little builds within it. It's kind of a first of its kind, and it'll be interesting to see whether this is successful or not. 18 minifigures in this set. That's only 4 less than Lion Knight's Castle, which is $170 more than this set. Speaking of figures, you're getting 7 Black Falcon soldiers, all kinds of different variants here with different armor, male and female, lots of different characters that you can add to your army. Next, I would consider this character to be the tax collector, but he could also be an engineer, so it's really up to you. And then we have some additional soldiers here that are fighting for the Black Falcons. Maybe they're a different regiment, or maybe they're recruits. Maybe that's why they have different colors. I don't know the internal Lego medieval lore here, but that's what I'm assuming. Next, we have a few female characters. So we have a sorceress, we have a herbalist, and then we also have a female blacksmith here as well. And then other characters in this set, we have various civilians, if you will, just kind of taking care of the shops and such. So these kind of will play into other scenes here in a minute. And then finally, we have a Lion Knight soldier, and you'll notice that she has a paint roller, and there's a reason for that. Now, turning our attention to the actual set, in terms of the build process for this set, I think a lot of you would be turned off by it like I thought originally, but it wasn't dreadful. In fact, it was very straightforward and easy to go through. So let's go through this one by one little section at a time. First up, we have this little catapult being pulled by this horse here in dark orange, and then we have these little catapult balls here. These are just little Technic balls that we normally see, and it's a very fun feature, and it's pretty straightforward. Next up, we have a little carriage here that is being pulled by what I assume to be a cow, or this could be a mule. It's really up to you. But the carriage itself is fairly simple. It has a couple barrels here in the back. There's a little rake or spear, if you will, in the front. And then we can put a single figure up there as well. And really, this is the resupply cart for the Black Falcon army. Next up, we have the field kitchen. And there's a lot of details to unpack with this little space here. First off, there is little farm animals there in the middle, as well as a dog. So we have a German Shepherd. We have the return of the dark gray goat, which we first saw in the CMF series, and then even a little bunny rabbit. On the side here, you'll notice a little mouse or rodent going after that cheese, so that's pretty funny to see. And then we have some breads here, some pretzels, and of course you have some vegetables. So we have a little carrot as well. Off to the side of where all the cooking's happening, we have a little turkey here with some sausages and an egg being cooked up, and of course we have a little fire pit with the bowl hanging over, and then we have some fish that it looks like this little cat is going after. We have a nice little table to eat all of this yummy food, and of course plenty of space to add different figures, and of course there's got to be a barrel for some drinks, am I right? Overall, I think the details here were very well executed. Moving on, we have some barriers, if you will, these spear-like objects that are kind of in the ground to deter the Lion Knights, and they are effective. They kind of have a very interesting design that I haven't seen before, and it's actually fairly simple in terms of how they are designed, so if you want to make more, that's fairly easy to do. Now, this is a movable barrier, so notice there's some handles there on the back side, so you can have two minifigures push it along, and you can have the archers behind it to protect them as they're firing, as they're doing the siege to the Lion Knight's castle, which we'll get to here in just a minute. Now, as for this next tent, this is for the sorceress to do her magic within, and I really like the design of the tent. The hexagon shape is very cool. Haven't really seen this done before, so it's fairly new. There's some sheep on the back, a little baby sheep that's very cute. I like the string pieces coming off of it, kind of adds to the texture and design of it. There's some bushes off to the side, and unfortunately, the biggest downside with this tent is you can't access the inside. There is an interior there. It's fairly simple, just a chest and a little kind of table in the middle, and that's about it. Now, Lego also includes pieces so that you can switch out the tent if, say, the Lion Knights win, or maybe you want the Lion Knights invading the mountain fortress instead of the Lion Knights castle. You can do that as well, but you can replace these pieces so it's a Lion Knights tent if you want to do so, which I think is a really cool option for medieval Lego castle fans. Next up, we have a little area for the herbalist to, work with different plants here, create different potions and all that jazz, or maybe healing aids for the fallen soldiers. It's whatever you really want this to be, and I think this is fairly creative. I like the different designs here, a lot of different accessories, so you can really make this whatever you want it to be, but it does look really good and blends in with everything else. This is apparently called the Grunt Tent, aka just for the newly recruited soldiers to sleep pretty firmly on that nice flat ground, very comfortable. But above it, we have a little tree here with some red birds and a little nest. I like this design, but we've seen this before in Lego sets, so nothing crazy new. And then off to the side, we have a little target area for an archer to practice and make sure that she's getting her shots just right. And then next to that, we have a little squirrel with his nuts. Pretty cute. Now, this next section is the armament, or really the place that the blacksmith is working out of. As you can see, there is a lot happening here, a lot of different fun details, a little bit of rocks here on the ground, but you can bring in the blacksmith. You'll notice there's a full box here of different metals that you can melt down and then, of course, hammer out on that anvil. So we have a little Thor's hammer for the blacksmith, and you'll notice that there's a giant fire pit here off to the side that's actually very well done. I like how simple it is, yet it's very well executed. We have a nice barrel for water to put those swords in after they're done from being worked on. And then you can see a couple different sword selections here, as well as some other weaponry off to the side, and then even some armor off to the left. So lots of different weapons to give your Black Falcons or civilians, up to you. Now, this next tent for the Black Falcons is probably what I would consider to be the engineer's quarters, just given to what the details around it seem to be. This one you can actually open up to see the inside, which is nice. So there's a little design table there, and then there's even a little miniature siege tower of the bigger version that we'll see here in just a second. And there's even some designs with a sticker here out on the front. Looks like the engineer was working out exactly how to get inside the Lion Knight's castle, and I'd say he's succeeded. So speaking of the siege tower, that is next, and this has got to be the coolest part of this set. I love this thing. It's so well designed. It's actually fairly simple, all things given, but it looks really good, very menacing. So there's a couple different handles on the backside on wheels for the siege tower to move around. Up top, we have a couple different flags here that are all Black Falcon, of course. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do have that Lion Knight soldier included in the set, and she has that paint roller, so she can basically change out this siege tower to the Lion Knight siege tower if, say, they win, or maybe you want the Lion Knights to invade the Mountain Fortress. Bricklink Designer Program set, up to you. In terms of how the actual siege tower works with this dropping bridge here, it's fairly simple. We've seen this in other Lego Castle sets before, and it looks really cool from all angles, and you can put tons of different figures on this to basically create your siege. Finally, I saved the best for last. We have a much larger catapult, technically called a trebuchet. I think that's the way you pronounce it. But this thing is ridiculous. You can do some damage with this thing. Huge counterweight, which throws those Lego projectiles, which are being hung up on these Lego chains, right across the room. I had way too much fun playing around with this. It's got to be my favorite feature of the set. The siege tower is awesome, but this thing, in terms of playability, just knocks it out of the park, quite literally. And then finally, we have a little siege ladder here to make sure your troops get up that wall and into the actual fortress. But that's all the different little builds for the Siege Encampment set. Altogether, it really is quite a substantial set, and it gets even better now. So the moment you've been waiting for, what does the Siege Encampment look like with Lion Knight's castle? Well, I gotta say, this is what really sold me on the set. After I was done building it, I was like, okay, this is cool. This is more than I thought. But once I brought down my Lion Knight's castle and put it on the table, I was like, oh, okay. All right. This is pretty cool, man. So I think the visuals really speak for themselves here. Once you combine the two sets, I mean, it really does bring to life Lion Knight's castle in a much bigger, grander, epic way than before. I mean, the set itself is fantastic. You can have so much fun within the interior, but if you wanted to have a full-scale battle, well, the Siege Encampment set really does that for you. And for those of you wondering, yes, I was able to get a direct shot towards Lion Knight's castle's front door. Finally, what if we combine the medieval town square set in combination with Lion Knight's castle and the Siege Encampment? And well, I think it speaks for itself. This is an incredible combination, and huge props to the designer Sleepless Knight for coming up with a set that blends absolutely perfectly with Lego's aesthetic from these two other official sets. It really all blends together and creates a very fun diorama or battle that you can play through. I love the way this all looks. It feels right. I like the execution here. Now, the final thing I want to note is that the medieval town square is the same price as the Siege Encampment. It's $230 and it has 3,300 pieces, whereas Siege Encampment, 2,600 pieces. So you're getting far less pieces here for a medieval set. However, far more minifigures are included in Siege Encampment, 18 versus 8. So it's really up to you to decide, do you care about the minifigures, the piece count, and what the set has to offer? I think it delivers. So as you guys just saw, I mean, this set blends way better than I was expecting with Lion Knight's castle. I mean, look at this. It's a whole battle happening here. I mean, you can definitely build up some of these things to have a few more. Just order some parts off Bricklink or off Pick-a-Brick and just add a little bit more. But really all that's missing here is just throw some green base plates down, maybe some few parts of plants and stuff, and you've got a battle going on here, and there's plenty of figures between the Lion Knights and the Black Falcons to go against each other. And I really like that the designer also included flags so you could switch out if the Lion Knights win, then defeat this siege and take over the camp. I love that all that's also included. I think that was very neat. The only like downside to this set that I can really say is, you know, it is a lot of stuff, right? So you need a lot of table space to take full advantage of this whole battle. So if you have a nice open table that you can put your castle and have fun and play and then have like a full-on skill war between the Black Falcons and Lion Knights, then yeah, this is gonna be a set you're gonna have fun with, and that's definitely pretty cool. This is a fun first set, not necessarily a display set first. Some of this stuff is very much a display item, even though it has great functionality. And while you can make a perfectly awesome diorama, I mean, it is so tempting to have a full-on scale battle here between all of this. Like, this is so cool. This really does round out Lion Knight's castle. It just makes it an even better set now with the Siege Encampment. It's unfortunate, I think, that this is only going to be like available for a few days. You know, pre-orders are maxed out once it hits 30,000 and then it's sold out. And so once that happens, then you have to pay the inflated prices. And so my point being, if this remotely interests you, like the whole battle thing happening here with Lion Knight's Castle, you're going to want to pick this up on February 4th. I think $230 is fairly reasonable. There's so many accessories, so many things here that I think are genuinely fun builds. I was surprised that I actually enjoyed the build experience with this set. I was absolutely dreading building this one. I was a little frustrated. And also, I just got to mention, this is the coolest catapult I have ever seen. Like, it works so well. I love this thing. Yeah, this is just a better set than I was expecting it to be. I had very low expectations and ended up, well, exceeding my expectations. And so that's how I feel about the Siege Encampment set. I think if this interests you, I think it's a fair price. I do expect this to sell out. How fast? I don't know, but it's probably going to sell out before the 30 days is up for pre-orders for this. I don't know if it's going to be the top selling Bricklink Designer Program set of this wave, but it definitely will sell out because this thing is cool. It is literally the battle pack for the medieval fans of Lego out there. Enjoy this one, guys. Thanks again to Bricklink for sending this over for review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. You're going to be picking up the Siege Encampment come February 4th. Hope you guys have a great, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.